So, welcome to the Be Lively Club, Emma. I'm very, very happy to have you here. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became an executive coach?
Yeah, I will do. And thank you for having me on Be Lively. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, how did I become an executive coach? Well, I guess in truth, I've been coaching for years, and without realizing it, I started in different management roles. And actually, I was quite young to start managing the amount of people that I managed, and they were all remote. And I needed to find a way really to be able to allow them to progress and for us to get the performance levels that we needed to in the business that I was in. And the only way to do that is to coach. You can't micromanage. Not that I really wanted to. It's not my style, but you can't micromanage because you're not with people. Um, and so coaching was the way that I found worked really well. And it just progressed. And I found that it was the best way to see how others can progress. Um, and then personally, I started to coach myself, as in train to be a coach in 2014, and then took some time to embed that. And I went off on some different tangents and kind of went into transactional analysis, which is all about how we communicate in our human interactions, and then neuro linguistic programming, which again is all about how we see the world. And it's a beautiful method to train in. So I took some different avenues. And then in 2018, I left the corporate job that I was in, that I've been doing I've been in corporate banking for probably 20 odd years.
Mm.
And I became an executive coach. So I started to coach some different leaders from various businesses across the UK
Mhm.
and just loved it. So that's kind of expanded from there, really. That's in short my journey.
Amazing. And I think the reason why I wanted to get you on the club and talking about this because I really see the value in how that can really support someone like with their personal development but also their professional development because they do come hand in hand. We don't go home. I think you have to be quite a strict person to go home at the end of the day and go, right, I'm switching off from work, and that's not what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
But I think if you've got you know any kind of like challenges at work, then it's almost does feed into the rest of your life and can really impact you if there are challenges that you're finding really difficult. So it would be really nice to understand how executive coaching can kind of contribute to our personal and professional development and how we can navigate challenges in both aspects of our life.
And they absolutely, one bleeds into the other, basically. If we're
Mm,
not feeling fit and healthy at home, then that can really impact our working lives and vice versa.
mm,
And the bit that I missed out before was talking about the fact that I needed some coaching within my career. And I noticed that that's the thing that made the difference for me. It was huge. I really needed to have that time and that space for me, mentally and physically, because I noticed that I was really getting to a stage where it was too much for me. So the overwhelm, the amount of tasks that I thought I needed to get done,
yeah.
and how I was going about it, that was huge. And it was really affecting and impacting the way that I lived my life and the way that my work was carried out.
Mm,
So that's what it does for others. Executive coaching will ask you to sit there and have space for yourself, which we don't do that a lot of the time. Have space for yourself with somebody that knows how to navigate it with you.
mm,
For somebody that understands how to ask you the right questions to get you from A to B. The premise of coaching is the coachee, the person being coached, has all the answers within them. And I firmly believe that this isn't about imparting your knowledge. It's great if you've been in those situations because you've got that empathetic view.
mm.
But actually, this is about having the skills and the ability to guide somebody through their own path and come to their own solution. So that's how executive coaching or coaching, it really does support you. And if you are finding that things are a bit amiss in either your personal life or your professional life, and one is impacting the other, that's the time to go and get some support and some help before it turns into a real problem for you.
Yeah, and I as your friend as well, not just, you know, through our networking circles, you know, there's definitely been some um, wins for me in terms of going for our walks and just talking about what we're struggling with in terms of
Mm,
business. You know, I run my own business, I have a job, I've got a young family, you know, and there are times when I do feel so overwhelmed with everything.
mm,
And, you know, even though I'm in the health and well-being sphere, you know, I'm not a pinnacle of health. I'm on this journey myself all the time, you know, balancing, you know, the different demands of life and you know, when we've been on our walks together, the conversations we've had, you've never tried to fix me. You know, you've just given me questions to really think about, you know, like why, you know, why do I think this way? What's stopping me from doing the thing that I want to do, you know? And I think sometimes it's that kind of self-preservation, isn't it? And
mm,
actually, when we ask the right questions within ourselves, we then think, oh, actually, you know, it's almost like trying to find evidence, isn't it? For those, for the thoughts that we have about, you know, how we should show up in a certain situation or how we approach a situation. And actually, when you fully question it, you're like, oh, actually, why are we doing it like that? You know,
mm.
or why am I doing it like that? Or why do I think that? There's no evidence to say that I'm not good enough, or, you know, so actually having someone externally asking those questions and then you kind of answer them yourself, you're like, well, actually, I can do that thing. And I think that's really valuable, and having the space to be listened to.
And vocalizing that is a big thing, isn't it? You know, and that's us being able to say the things that are within us.
Yeah,
That's a real powerful thing to be able to do, to vocalize it and go, oh, okay. And once you've heard yourself say it, it's a whole different ball game.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
sorry, and I think sometimes there are some uncomfortable truths, aren't there? You know, and when you vocalize that, it does make you feel really vulnerable.
mm, you can do, absolutely. And that's where having the space, that safe space. So it's not about judgment.
Mm,
We've all got our own individual maps of the world. We all
yeah,
see things very differently. And the coaching space is one where you are free to explore and be yourself.
yeah.
And there's no one going to sit and judge you for what you bring into that space.
So you've mentioned like the different kind of like modalities that you use, like neurolinguistic programming and transactional analysis. But like, you know, when you're coaching someone, do you do it in quite a holistic way? You know, we're very holistic here at Be Lively. So, you know, it's not just, you know, like one way that you sort of do something with someone. Do you sort of pick and choose, have like a little pick and mix depending on
Totally.
what someone needs when they approach you?
That's totally it. And it's lovely. I love the fact that I'm never going to know what we're going to use in a session, dependent on what the client needs. So it could be a real focus on their well-being. It could be what's going on for you right now, because the biggest thing that we're talking about in this space is, you know, how you feel and how you are, and actually let's talk about what you're doing to look after yourself at the moment. It could be let's focus on decision makings, because that's causing you some real agony. There's some procrastination, and we're talking about the fact that making decisions are really, really hard.
Mm,
It could be relationship issues with somebody, communication breakdowns, and that's really causing anxiety and a different way of being, a different way of acting.
mm,
And that then manifests itself in a different way in your whole life. So it really is dependent on the issue, what's really happening in that individual's life, that
mm,
we then bring it into, okay, what would be the best thing for us to do here? And sometimes I'll give the client the choice. You know, we can try this, or we
mm.
can try this. What do you fancy? What do you fancy doing first?
Yeah,
And we explore and we use the different methods, and different exercises to say, where do you want to go with this? And I guide as they go on their journey.
yeah. No, I think that's really important because it puts them in control as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
On their own kind of path and how they want to be supported, and that definitely, I think for me, I feel more accountable, you know, in doing this work, as well. Do you have any? You know, I've heard lots of stories of like clients that you've worked with, but do you have one that you feel really showcases how someone's kind of overcome some obstacles, and it's really kind of made an impact both like in their working life, but I think also their personal life.
Yeah, and there's one, and it sounds, it was a beautiful one actually. It sounds like quite a simple example, but it was huge. Um, I talk quite a lot about listening to our language, so the language that we use when we communicate with other people. And I had one client that was particularly using away from language. Now, away from language is fear-based language. So I need to complete this report or finish this report because I don't want X to happen. And the flip side to that is toward language. So I want to complete that report because it means I can do X, Y, and Z. And it changes your whole physiology. It changes the way that your brain is wired to think about the task in front of you. And guess what? It also changes how others perceive you. So just by catching that language and noticing that it was a pattern, and that was something that we explored through one of the sessions, it's a pattern. And they understood it, and we talked about what away from and toward language is and did some different examples. And then they noticed that in themselves going forward, and then chose to shift that language into something that was toward.
Yeah.
And the changes were dramatic, just in their own. Away from language is quite a negative feeling, and toward language is a real positive sense of wanting something, that excitement, that anticipation. And just by shifting, they had a real sense of a shift in themselves. What is it that's different for them now?
Yeah.
And others were perceiving them differently as well. Their whole lives shifted into a different positive state. And for them, it meant that they could go on to a different project they really wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
And their relationships at work just changed.
Yeah.
I always say it's like cogs in a clock, in clockwork. You shift and others have to shift because that's just naturally what happens. You have to make the shift first, then others see that and they shift with you.
But also the energy you put out to the world as well. If you're quite negative in every sort of part of, you know, how you approach a situation, then it's not going to inspire others to do the work with you either, is it? So actually, you know, when you are more of a positive person, not to be toxic positive, but you know, it's about, you like you say, the language, you know, how you show up and approach a situation or a decision means that it then inspires others. I've got really just to kind of make this a little bit more real for people, I remember at work there was I don't particularly like doing all the kind of menial admin tasks at work, you know, it kind of, you know, but they have to be done. And I was, you know, I was constantly going, oh, why do we have to do this and why do we have to do that? And my team leader at the time basically goes, Emily, we just have to do it. It's called wanky bollocks, but we have to do it. And as soon as she called it that, I was like, oh, it's fun now.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, I was like, oh, okay, this is all wanky bollocks, but we still have to do it. And, you know, and I know for anyone who's probably thinking, oh, but it's still, it completely shifted my mindset around it. Just making something have a funny name in itself just made it easier to do. And and it's just part of the jigsaw puzzle of getting you to a point in a project, or you know, just to get through the day at work. You know, it was quite a profound shift, really, just calling something a funny name. So I do that
Amazing.
with other parts of, you know, my life, and I sort of do it with my son as well, with my child. So I think it really sort of plays with your inner child in a way.
Yeah, makes it fun. You know, that's it's reframing the situation
Yeah.
and adding a label to it that makes it fun for you. It's huge. And that our brain then suddenly goes, oh, okay, I'll accept this. It's great. And then your whole body changes because you are feeling much more positive about the situation,
Yeah.
and you don't have those kind of negative thoughts running through your mind, which can cause a real problem for you.
Yeah. No, definitely. So you've used sort of looking at the language that we use to try and help us to, is there any other kind of like, you don't have to say loads, but maybe one more kind of like methodology, I should say, not methodology, that you use that you think is particularly effective with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, there's small little exercises. So I will ask clients to write down 3 things every day that have been positive. At the end of the day, what 3 things have been really positive about today?
Yeah.
And again, that's just almost starting the process at the very start to almost shift the thoughts into, okay, well, this was really positive about today. And I hadn't really noticed that. And do it before you go to bed. What a lovely way to kind of like go to sleep, to remember the things that have been really good about the day. And I've just recently started to pick this up again myself. I don't always have the best days myself, and so these practices, they say you teach what you need yourself, and that's what I'm doing with this. I'm coaching what I need myself, so I need to practice these things too.
Yeah, same.
And I do that every night now. So I'm writing down the things that were really good about today, the things that I'm proud of, what went well, what I'm really grateful for. And it takes kind of minutes just to note down in a notebook, but the difference it makes to your sleep and then your thoughts throughout the next day is incredible.
I think it's a really nice way to debrief with
Mm.
yourself, because I think even if you're single or even in a relationship, sometimes even discussing those things with someone, and if they don't have the skills to hold space for you to
Yeah,
just debrief, because sometimes, as much as my husband's amazing, he does try to fix things for me, and I don't need that. I just need
yeah,
someone to listen. So I think even if you are single or even in a relationship where it doesn't feel like you could do that, I think this is such a powerful way to just debrief your day and reflect on your day, or even on
yeah.
your week, on your own, by literally simply writing it down. Sometimes I don't have time, but sometimes I might just write it on my phone in a little notepad, because sometimes just writing it down, it's like out of here, out of your
Mm.
head, and on something else, and then
Yeah.
it creates a little bit more of a clearer mind for you to kind of go to sleep, and not be worrying about the thing that you think has been the negative part of the day, because sometimes that negative thing can sometimes take up a lot more headspace than it needs to.
Mm.
When actually, if you start to look for the nice little glimmers of your day, actually you realize that you have actually achieved quite a bit.
Yeah, totally. And you just triggered my memory of another nice one that is a really quick, simple one for people to do, because we can ruminate on something that is playing on our mind, and we like really, really indulge in that rumination, but it causes us some pain and anxiety, and then we don't get anything else done. So one of the things to do if that's happening to you at the moment is to give yourself time scheduled to do that rumination. So you say, I need to get on to something else, but I'm going to schedule some time at 4 p.m., for example, and I'm going to literally indulge, and I'm going to give myself, a good 10, 15 minutes of pure rumination to think about this. So you're not starving yourself of that need, but
Yeah,
actually you're giving yourself permission to do it at a certain time, knowing that's when you can put it in your phone and say that ready time, ruminate about this,
yeah,
and then give yourself the time then back to focus on what else you need to do
yeah,
in that day. And that, it sounds like a simple one, but actually it's really effective to allow yourself to do that. And then there's a few questions afterwards, after you finish ruminating. Do you feel better after that 15-minute rumination?
yeah,
Generally, it's a no.
yeah.
I don't feel better after 15 minutes rumination. Okay, so what am I going to do instead? And that's when you can build into, okay, well, let's make a plan. What's going to be different because of this? And also, what am I going to do to look after myself? What's the one thing I'm going to do for myself now to get back on track? Whether that's make myself my favorite hot drink, go for a walk, take a bath, whatever it is,
Yeah.
um, and tell yourself something good about yourself as well, because we forget to do that after we've had that time of ruminating about something,
Yeah.
to bring the positivity back in again.
Do you do that rumination on your own, or could you do it with someone if you've got a good like work colleague or someone at home that a lot of people are working from home nowadays, so actually having that opportunity to discuss something, an issue with someone, because sometimes it
Great.
does help to ruminate with another person if they can hold that space for you. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, is that something you would recommend?
absolutely. What I would say is find somebody that you know is able to be really impartial for you. And what I mean by that is simply there to give you the answers. They're not there to comment
Feed it,
or,
to kind of feed
yes,
it more. Yeah,
exactly. They're not
yeah.
there to do that. They're there to literally hold the space. And there's a brilliant book. It's an oldie but a goodie, as they say. Nancy Klein, Time to Think. And it talks about the ability to allow others to have space. And she does an exercise where you literally have somebody talks. They talk about everything they want to talk about until they're literally talked out,
Yeah.
and the other person is witnessing it. They're there for them, but they don't make any facial expressions. They don't make any comments. They're not there to talk. They're not there to make any judgment. They're there to just witness what's being said,
Mm.
and that is a really powerful thing to have and allow somebody to do and to do for somebody else.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. And I think it is very rare to find that sometimes, but I think if you're honest with that person and go, maybe even set the expectation, it's going, look, I just need to get something off my chest. I don't need you to fix anything. I don't, just are you happy to hold that space for me? And I think most people are quite happy when you give them that permission, because I
Mm,
think sometimes people feel like, oh, maybe they want me to fix something for them, and actually, you're constantly then thinking like, oh, well, they've asked me for this space, and then I'm like, I need to like come up with a grand way to help them with come up with a solution. But actually,
mm,
when you set that expectation of what this is for, then it just makes them relaxed, and they're actually listening to what you're saying. They're not then in their own head thinking, oh my God, I've got to come up with a good solution to their problem, and actually not listening to what that person's actually saying.
yeah.
I've definitely done that with friends. I'm like, I'm not going to fix anything. I'm just here to listen. And I think you get a
That's
lot
such
more.
a gift to give them, Emily. It really is. And what it does for your friend is allow them the space to talk about what it is, and they will feel so incredibly different coming out of that conversation with you, rather than having somebody that's tried to give them solutions or next steps themselves.
Mhm.
This is all about that. They would have probably talked themselves through some next steps and solutions just by
Yeah,
you being there.
yeah,
And they are authentic ones that they'll then want to do for themselves rather than somebody else has given them these solutions.
yeah.
Totally different.
Absolutely. And I think when you have coaching professionally, like with like yourself, like a professional coach, it really drip feeds into other relationships. And this is why I see the value in coaching so much, in terms of like just how it changes you as a person, and your mindset around things. And a lot of what I do in pelvic health isn't changing structures, isn't changing postures. It's not, it's actually looking at someone's mind, and how they are living their lives can really
Mm,
impact their physical health. A lot of what I do is kind of a manifestation of the choices and decisions they're making, the poor relationships that they have. They're struggling with their kids, they're struggling with their partners. It just creates tension, stress,
mm,
that really affects other parts of their lives. And actually, when we can hold that space for people, and a lot of the time I'm listening to people and what they're going through in their lives, and that in itself, they walk away going, oh, I feel instantly calmer, I feel instantly better, because they're not holding all this baggage.
yeah.
um, and I've not touched them. I've not given them any pelvic floor exercises.
Mm,
I've not done anything except for just giving them the space to just talk through what's really they're struggling with.
yeah.
And often they're really surprised. They're like, "Why do you want to know about this?" And it's like, yeah,
Hmm.
but if we don't understand the root cause of it, then we're kind of missing the mark, aren't we? So
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
amazing. So I wanted to touch on your other hat in Connect Outside. So this is I suppose, a company that allows businesses and teams to connect outside. It does exactly what it says on the tin.
It does, Emily, it does, yeah.
And do you want to, rather than me rambling on about what it is, but I'd really love for you to talk about it, because I think this is a really good way for, anyone listening thinking, oh yeah, I'm really struggling with my team, and this can be a really nice way for them to learn about each other and how that can really help that team to thrive.
Yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, Connect Outside does what it says on the tin. It connects people outside. So I work with a mountain leader, my business partner John, and we built. It's a bit of a lockdown baby, actually. Connect Outside. We built it, and in 2021 we started to take teams of people, and these are teams of people they have been working in isolation for a long time now, and still do. Some teams are still just getting back together, maybe once a week, and that disconnect that can cause when you need to be at peak performance in a team is huge.
Mm.
There's teams that are finding that there's dysfunction, that there's intolerance in a team, communication breakdowns, and that's not a healthy environment for anyone to want to be in.
No.
So we saw that there's a need, and we take teams to really cool places like the Brecon Beacons or the Lake District, and we have got some good venues that we work with, and we get people together and use some different exercises to say, how do you want to work differently as a team? So that might be that it's a strategy day. It might be it's a pure, simple walk with some questions that we ask each other as we walk. There's always tea and cake, by the way. That's one of the big themes.
Who doesn't connect well around tea and cake?
Exactly. It's just perfect. It really is. And it's space for teams to reset and have some time to get to know each other. We do use a tool called the GC Index, which is a profiling tool that allows you to understand where you get your energy from, which I love because it really tells you what you should be doing or what you could be doing differently to get more energy within your work and your life. And then obviously it tells you the flip side, which is where your energy is drained.
Yeah.
And it tells you how you like to approach the task in front of you. And we'll do it differently. So you and I would have the same task in front of us and we would approach it differently. Knowing you as my friend, Emily, I think you would probably go, right, let's get this done. I really need to know how, let's just get in there. Yeah. And I would be like, whoa, okay, let's see what we need to have around the edges. Let's make sure. So, and we would have different approaches. And if I didn't know that about you, then I could get frustrated. But actually, knowing that about you, I value the fact that you will get stuff done and you'll get in there.
Yeah.
And being able to say, well, there's different styles that we all have. It could be, I'm much more about the ideas and creation. Or it could be, no, I need a plan before we're going to start off. I need to know why. Yeah. That's going to come across in how you interact with others and how you want to build what you're doing in your workspace and your personal life. And so if you can tell others about that and you know it yourself, you're going to have much better communication in relationships. And we do that as a team together. Yeah. And we'll say things like, tell us within the profile that you've got what you'd most like people to know about you and your team. And it's such a beautiful conversation because people go, wow, I didn't know that that's what you wanted to be valued for or known for. Yeah. And now you do. You really see people in different light. And then we go out the most incredible walk. Nice. Yeah, it's just a great thing for teams to be involved in and do. So
yeah, I do think empathy is often quite lost, isn't it, in a team culture, that kind of hustle culture, isn't it? Everyone wants to be successful in their own right, but we can get that humanistic part of it quite lost sometimes. And that dynamic can really change then within the team. That sounds amazing, and I'm always singing your praises whenever I see at work or anything, and they're like, oh, we want to do a team building day. I'm like, I know the best person.
Absolutely. And we're doing some real kind of 125 quid a head team days at the moment as well, to get people outside and connecting together. So that it's not they're not vast amounts at the moment. We can do that as a team.
Yeah. And being outside always helps. I'm always saying to people, can we do a walking meeting, chat, you kill two birds with one stone, don't you? And we're just so constantly surrounded by buildings, concretes, technology, to kind of just get away from that, and you instantly feel more calm and relaxed in nature. I don't know anyone, unless you've got a severe allergy to flowers, I can understand.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Well, we make sure the routes are all kind of pretty accessible, and
yeah,
they say like John's son is 3 years old, and he did the route in welly boots, so it's lovely routes that we can do,
yeah,
but it's just beautiful. And you're so right. I mean, there's a bit of a trend after lockdown, isn't there, to getting outside more,
yeah,
but this is giving the team the opportunity to do this together.
yeah.
But yeah.
No, amazing. So, lastly, I suppose, is how can people find like a coach? So, whether that's within their own business or in the company, how can they work with you? If that's something they wanted, listening to this, they think, oh, actually, Emma seems like a very calm soul. You're very calming towards me anyway, or for me. Or is there sponsorship that people can access to be able to pay for coaching? What are the options available to people?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are lots of different coaches out there, and I guess it's all about finding the right coach for you. So you have to like them.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things. You're going to work with this individual. It doesn't have to be for a long, long time. I work with clients for around 6 to 9 sessions maximum,
Yeah,
because that's enough for us to spend time together for them to have a shift in their life.
yeah,
Different companies, if you're within a big organization, I would firstly ask if there is a coaching program, because a lot of organizations are connected to coaches that can offer you some support.
yeah,
If you're not, or if you're in a smaller organization that doesn't offer that, then a lot of my clients get sponsorship. So they'll say, for my own personal development, I'd like to work on this.
yeah,
And this is what it costs to work with a coach. Can I get some sponsorship to be able to do that?
mm,
There's normally a learning and development budget where you
yeah,
can do that. I work with business owners as well, so that's their own time, so they can come direct to me.
yeah,
And I work with lots of different individuals. I don't solely work within businesses. I work with business owners, and also with different students as well. So my website is emmajanecoaching.com. It's not actually, it's emmajanecoaching.co.uk. It's not .com in the slightest.
I'm always like that. I'm like, is it? Don't. I
Yeah,
never know.
damn it.
Damn it.
But I mean, it is an investment to work with a coach. It's not kind of your 50-minute therapy session. It is a chunky amount of time that I work with clients for. So we're
Yeah,
together for a chunky amount of time. And your investment will probably be between 12 and £1,500 to have 6 to 9 sessions with
yeah,
me. But it's a investment in changing your life.
yeah,
What is it you want to have different in your life? And let's work specifically through the things that are causing you points of pain
hmm,
right now, and
yeah,
get you to the other side so that life feels very different for you.
yeah.
And that's what I do with clients that I work with.
Yeah, no, and I've, as your friend, I've definitely noticed a shift in how I've approached my life, in how I've approached situations, just from our chats together. It's always good to befriend a coach. So, but at the same time, off the back of like, being your friend and working together, I have worked with other coaches, who have been specific to like the fitness industry, and it
Yeah,
is so transformational in terms of getting out of the mindset of not feeling good enough, not feeling like an imposter in your workplace. Um, yeah, there's just so much that you can then do after that. Um, and it's a working practice. It takes effort, doesn't it, to do this work? Um,
it
and
does. And there's definitely you got to be ready for it. You got to be ready
yeah,
to go, that this is something that I now know I really want to have changed in my life,
yeah,
and to feel differently about the situation. Like you said, there's lots of things around. I'm just not feeling worth it at the moment, or things aren't working the way I need them to.
yeah,
So those things that need to shift, you've got to be ready to shift them.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that's when the conversations can start to happen. But
Yeah.
yeah, when it does, it's incredible.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. I've got one more question that I didn't put prior to this, but it's just a bit of fun. And I ask this for everyone. But
Yeah.
if you could have dinner with three people, dead or alive, who would
Yeah.
they be?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's an incredible question. Who would they be? So there's a lady, I'm just trying to think of her name. Oh, it's gone out of my mind. There's a psychologist, that is an incredible lady that I follow, and I just wish I could remember her name. Well, obviously Brené Brown. I mean, wow,
Oh,
what a
yes,
woman.
yes. Anyone listening who's never heard of Brené Brown, you need to
Yeah,
Google this woman. Her TED Talks, her any talk that she's done online is definitely a massive food for thought.
yes.
Um,
So
and
that would be my first. Esther Perel is a lady that I was thinking about, a psychologist, and she deals a lot with different relationships and how people interact, or just our human nature. But just listening to what she has to say, and her voice is just fascinating.
yeah,
Would be absolutely incredible. And just because it's a poignant time today, I mean, I read Steve Wright, basically, he died yesterday, and Radio 2 presenter. And if I'm honest, he's been a big part of my life. I'd travelled the UK in my job before, and he was always on the radio. So he literally was like a real buddy I was driving home on an evening every night. So just, him, because he
yeah,
was just the life and soul of the party, really, and a beautiful human being. So yeah,
yeah.
that was just because that's today. That's what's happening today.
And
That would be my dinner party.
yeah, no, that sounds like you get some really good perspectives, like some really nice, intelligent conversation, really sort of thought provoking. And whenever you come away from a conversation with anyone where they've really made you think about something, and you go, "Oh, I've never thought of it that way," you kind of come away from that situation feeling like you can like take life on,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and with Steve Wright with a bit of humour as well.
totally, totally, totally.
Well, thank you so much, Emma. I've really enjoyed this, and yeah, I hope anyone listening or watching really enjoys, or maybe looking into how coaching can really help them thrive in life, and to just be lively. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, thank you so much, hun, and yeah, I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Take care.